Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is a combination January and February video. I did film in January and I did film a wrap-up, but it had been raining pretty much that entire month, and when I went to go edit the footage it was just super dark and really bad lighting. I was also having some issues with my laptop and my iPad and not being able to update, so I figured I would just do one January and February wrap-up video, and then from here on continue to do the wrap-up videos at the end of the month. So in January I read 4 books, which is more for me than I normally read. February I only read 1 book, which has been my typical. December I did really well and I read 5 books. January I went down a little bit, and then in February I didn't do so well, but I will show you the books that I read in January. So the first book that I finished was Wren Hunt. I technically started it in December and then I finished it January 1st, and I wanted to include it in the books that I'd read in December, but Goodreads doesn't let you do something like that, so it's technically the first book that I finished in January, and I gave it, I believe, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm not 100% sure. You can look on my Goodreads account to see what I really put on there, but I really liked it. I thought it was such a good read. The storyline is about judges and augurs and nematonin and magic, and I had never read about a storyline like this before. The storyline is similar to season 3 of Teen Wolf, but just in that there's like a nematonin and a druid. I really love that season of Teen Wolf, and I loved getting to kind of revisit that sort of magic in this story. I loved the main character, Wren. I thought she was awesome. I don't know how I feel about Tark, her main love interest. I kind of shipped her with another character in the beginning, even though he was a little weird. But the Wickering Light, I believe, is the second book to this series, and it comes out in May, which I will definitely be getting and reading. I want to see what happens. I think they're on the run now. I think her and Tark are on the run now, trying to kind of like escape what's happening to them. It's a little bit of like a Romeo and Juliet series where it's like she's from one world, he's from the other, but I didn't get that vibe from them throughout the story where they were like madly in love and trying to fight against their families. It wasn't really like that, but 5 out of 5 stars. I really love this book. Next I read Kingdom of Ash, which was a huge book. I have so many sticky tabs in here. And again, 5 out of 5 stars. It was so amazing. Sarah J. Maas is one of my favorite authors, and I've obviously read her entire series. I've read A Court of Thorns and Roses as well, and I just love her characters. I loved that in the end of this, all of the main characters that had been fighting through so much hardship and just tragedy finally got to have good endings, because that's what I wanted for them. Her and Rowan are going to live happily ever after and have children. Kale and Irene have baby Kale on the way. Dorian and Manon didn't get the ending that I was hoping for, but Manon is a strong woman and she needs to go rebuild her people in the Waste and be the last queen of the Cochrans and the overall queen of the witches. And Dorian's not going to stand in her way because honestly he knows that he couldn't. But I'm just so happy that all of the characters got happy endings. I didn't understand the need for some of the characters to die, and some of the characters that died, I only cried when one character died, and that was Gabriel. I didn't feel it was necessary for him to have died. I feel like him and Adian were just making up. Literally all of the characters in this story that were like the original Court from Terrasen don't have parents anymore. And I was like, at least one of them could have had a remaining parent. It could have been Gabrielle, but no, Sarah J. Maas just wanted to kill me even more. 5 out of 5 stars. I definitely want to reread the series and see if there were some things that I didn't pick up on the first time around that would have hinted at what was going to happen later on. But I would also reread it just because I loved these characters and this world. It was so amazing, and I would read it again. The third book that I read was The Diabolic. I actually read this on rivetedlit.com, which is a website that posts full books that you can read for free. Some months they just have a lot of extended excerpts that you can read from, which isn't my favorite thing. And sometimes the full books that they post are like the second or third book in a series, and if you haven't already read the first ones, then you really can't read those. But they had the Diabolic listed, and I was just having a really slow week at work, so I thought I'll pick it up and start reading at my desk. And in the beginning, I was kind of unsure of what was happening, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. There was just this weird lull where I didn't understand what the storyline was going to be, and it wasn't until almost halfway through that I was like, oh, this is what's happening. And not in like a shock, surprise, twist kind of way. It was just, I was really confused for I was really confused for a large majority of the book, but when it got going, it was so good, and I loved Nemesis and Tyrus the Mad King. I knew that he wasn't crazy. It just, something seemed off about him being like the Mad Prince. And when they came together, it was just really good. And I have Empress on my shelf. You can see it right there. And I want to start reading it. It's definitely on my March TBR. Just because this was such a fresh storyline, and I hadn't read something like this in a while, which was great because that seemed to be the theme of my January reading. Ren Hunt was so new and different, and my 4th book is the 2nd book in a series, and it was also a story that I'd never read about before. So 4 out of 5 stars, just because the beginning was a little weird, but overall I really love the characters. 4th book that I read in January was Our Dark Duet, which is the 2nd book in the duology series, The Monsters of Verity. The 1st book, Our Savage Song, was amazing, and I fell in love with Kate Harker and August Flynn. And if you're gonna read the series, don't get over emotionally attached to these characters, because something happens in this book that just ripped me apart, and I was like, I cannot believe that just happened, because it's not something that happens unless you're reading like Game of Thrones, where the author just does not care about the well-being of his characters. But this was so good, and I am so sad that it was just a duology. I love Victoria Schwab. She's an amazing author. She has another series that I read that I cannot think of, but her worlds are always just so amazingly constructed and so different. Like, the Fae people and kingdoms and war and stuff is a really big thing in the YA community right now, and I'm not saying anything negative about that, because I love books like that. I think they're so good, but it's nice to read something that's a little different, because those books definitely do tend to blur together. Like, I catch myself thinking about a scene that Sarah J. Maas wrote, and I'm like, wait, was that Rowan and Ayland or Rysand and Feyre? And then I'm like, oh, no, it's different. So they all kind of tend to blur together. The Cruel Prince is also about Fae people. They're a little bit different, but it's just a really big movement that's happening right now with all of the Fae people. So it was nice to read something else. I believe this was 4.5 out of 5 stars. So good. Such a great way to end my January month. Like I said, in February, I only read one book. I read Burning Glass by Catherine Purdy, and I really did enjoy this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Sometimes when I get to the end of the book and things are going so quickly, I just forget to tab. So these last, like, 200 pages or so were really, really good and held me on. But in the beginning, there was a bit of a lull, because it seemed like the only thing that was happening was this love triangle between the main character, Sonia, and the 2 brothers, one who is the emperor and one who is the prince next in line, Anton and Valko. And I just was like, okay, nothing's happening. We are just trying to see which brother she ends up choosing, which isn't my favorite thing. And I was like, there's no war going on. There's no scheming. Nothing really. It was just her inner monologue and a little bit of her power starting to show and grow in different ways, but not enough to really have kept me captured. So it took me almost 2.5 weeks to finish this. And then I was kind of in a bit of a reading slump. And when I picked up King of Scars afterwards, which I am now just starting to fly through, I feel like I'm out of that weird lull that I was in from this book. When I picked up King of Scars, I was just still in that weird slump and ended up not finishing it or reading anything else. I don't like to read multiple books at one time. I will get the storylines confused, I will not be as interested, and I will forget stuff. So I just read one book at a time. I'm finishing King of Scars now. I'm hoping to finish it today. I'm going to lunch with my mom and to go get a Costco membership card with her. But after that, I'm going to come home and read and then make dinner and read until I have to go to bed for work tomorrow. That is my January and February wrap up. 5 books in total, which is a little disappointing. I felt like I had done so well in January and then just not as well in February. I really need to start putting books down when I'm not interested in them. I feel like I have to continue reading them because I have already started it. But every once in a while I will put the book down and read something else and then come back to it, and I feel like I just have a more renewed energy to finish it and I enjoy it more. So that is one of my goals for March. If I start reading something that I don't like, I'm going to put it down and not pressure myself to continue to read it. Just a couple last updates. I ordered 2 subscription boxes, one from Fake Crate and one from Belle Regalia. I'm not sure. I will put the links for them down below. One of them from Belle Regalia, I'm not sure, is surrounded by the Grishaverse, and then the one from Fake Crate is surrounding Game of Thrones, Throne of Glass, Red Queen, all just books that I really like, so I'm super excited for those. So I'll be doing unboxing videos for both of them in March, and I will also be uploading some bullet journal videos. I have been bullet journaling for like 4 years now. It does take a lot of time and it's not for everybody, but I love it. I find a lot of peace in doing it, and it definitely helps with my anxiety, just having everything possible written out for me, a very aesthetically pleasing manner. So lots of new videos coming. I finally got a new laptop. I got the Surface Go from Best Buy, and so far I really love it. It's like a tablet and a computer. I liked that my iPad was nice and thin like this one is, but I needed a little more features that my laptop had, but my laptop was just not working. So hopefully now I can edit and upload a lot more and really do more on my booktube community and also on my blog. My review for The Wren Hunt is up and the links are down below. That is it. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!